Hey there, welcome to another tutorial. So in this video, we're going to be coding Connect 4 using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So here we have the board, and if I click on any column, you can see there's the red piece, and it alternates. And then we continue playing, you can see red wins, and we also have the check for horizontal, and the diagonals. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So why don't we begin? So before we begin, I just want to point out that I'm working on a tutorial series on web projects for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I have Wordle, Sudoku, Tic-Tac-Toe, and now I'm working on Connect 4. So I will be uploading weekly, and if you want to stay up to date on that, or if you want to stay up to date on my other content, please subscribe, and yeah. Alright, let's begin. So first, we'll create 3 files. connect4.html, connect4.css, and connect4.javascript, so JS. Alright, so in our HTML, let's do doc type HTML, and then for the head, we're going to do meta charset equals UTF-8, and meta name equals viewport. We're going to set content equal to width, device width, and initial scale 1.0. Alright, let's give a title to our web page, Connect 4, and let's also link our style sheet. So link style sheet href connect4.css. And finally, let's link our JavaScript code. So Connect 4. Alright, so that's it for our head. Let's add our body. And we're going to add a header tag. So Connect 4. And we're going to add another one, but slightly smaller. And this will be to keep track of the winner. And we are going to use JavaScript to populate that tag. And then finally, let's have a div tag for our board. And that's pretty much it. Alright, so now if I go to the folder where my HTML is, I just double click on it. And here we have Connect 4. Alright, let's start working on the CSS. So body, we're going to set the font to Arial. And we're going to align it and center it. And then for the board, we're going to make it 540 pixels tall and 630 pixels wide. So the height is going to be 540 pixels and the width is going to be 630 pixels. And you can see our board is 6 by 7. So if you just do the math, each tile is going to be 90 by 90 pixels. Alright, so let's set the background color to blue. And then we're going to add a border of 10 pixels, solid, and we'll set it to navy. And then let's center it. So display flex and flex wrap. Alright, so if we refresh, you can see there's our Connect 4 board. Alright, let's start coding our JavaScript. So we're going to have a variable, player red, is going to be R, and player yellow is going to be Y, and cur player, so we're going to let player red go first. Let's have a bool for game over, set it to false, and our board. So our board is going to have 6 rows and 7 columns. Now when the page loads, we're going to call a function setGame, and let's define that function. So this function is going to populate the tiles within the board. So let's have our JavaScript board. And basically this board in JavaScript is going to correspond to the tiles in our HTML page. So for let r equals 0, r less than rows, r++. For let c equals 0, c less than columns, c++. And then before that, we're going to create a role for our board in JavaScript. And so for our JavaScript code, we're going to do row.push an empty string, this white space. And for our HTML, so tile equals document.createElement. We're going to create a div, and we're going to set the ID to r.toString plus the dash plus c.toString. So over here you can see we have our 6x7 board in HTML. So for instance, this one would have an ID of 2,2, and this one would have an ID of 4,3. So each one would have an ID and they would correspond to the 2D array that we have in JavaScript. So for instance, if we put a piece here that is 5,1, we're able to get the row and column indices, which would be 5,1, and we will update the board in JavaScript. Alright, so after that, let's add a class, and we're going to call it tile, which we will style later. And then finally, document.getElementById board. We're going to append this tag. So basically, we created a div tag, and we set the ID to the index position. So first it starts with 0, 0, and then we added a style class of tile, and we take this tag, and what this line does is we just append it within here like this. So our JavaScript does that for us. If we didn't use JavaScript, we would have to manually do that 42 times, right? Because 6 times 7. So after this for loop ends, let's add the row. So board push row. So this will add it to our JavaScript board. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. So let's go back to our CSS and let's add a tile class. And the height and width would be 90 pixels. And let's create the circle. So we're going to set the background color of the circle to match the background color of the page. So it's white. And we're going to make the border radius 50%. Alright, so now if I refresh, you can see we have all our circles, but they're all too close to each other. So let's apply a margin. So for the margin, let's set it to 5 pixels. And if you see, we have our margin of 5 pixels, but the circles have fallen off the board. And that is because we don't have enough room. We said that the max width is 630 pixels. When we add the additional 5 pixel margin, we kind of went over that limit of 630 pixels. So that's why you can see our circles went out of the board. So we need to adjust this. So because the margin is 5 pixels, left and right, that's 5 pixels each. So that's 10 pixels in total. And top and down as well, we need to deduct 10 pixels from the height and the width. So if we refresh, you can see everything is nice and neat in here. And let's also add a border. So 5 pixels, we're going to make it solid and navy. So this will give a border around the circle, and like with margin, we need to make room for that 5 pixels. So again, you have your border left, border right, so that's another 10 pixels. Alright, so you can see we have our board, and the circles have a border and a margin. Alright, and let's add the red piece. So this is basically just applying a background color of red to the tile, and a yellow piece. So background color to yellow. Okay, so now we're done with our CSS. Let's go back to our JavaScript. So when we click on a tile, we want to place the red or yellow piece. So I'm going to add an event listener. So when here's a click, we're going to call setPiece. And let's define the function here. And the first thing we're going to do is check to see if game over. If so, we return do nothing. So if there's a winner, game over. We're not going to allow anyone to set pieces. So if it's not game over, let's get the coordinates. So chords equals this.id.split, right? Because the IDs would be like 0, 0, and with the split, we split the string by the delimiter, which is the dash, and it returns an array of 2 values, the row and column. And because they're strings, we need to parse them as ints. So let's do parse int of chords 0 and parse int of chords 1. So with the coordinates, let's update our board in JavaScript to cur player. And let's also do the same for the HTML. So tile equals this, and we're going to check if cur player is equal to player red. We're going to add the red piece style class. Else, let's add the yellow one. Okay. So if I click on this, it turns red, this one turns red, this turns red, and so on. We want it to alternate. So we're going to set, if the current player is equal to red, we're going to set it to yellow. And we'll do the opposite. If it's yellow, we set it to red. And if I refresh the page, you can see we have it alternating. Now the thing with Connect 4 is there's gravity, right? When I click on this column, it should appear here, down here. So we shouldn't allow the pieces to be floating like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an extra array, and it's going to mark the height of each column. So at first, all 7 columns start at index 5. And if I place a piece here, we're going to update this to index 4. And if I place another one, it's going to be 3. And if we keep going, if we try to click this column one more time, this will be 0. So we're going to check if this row for the specific column is 0, do not place the piece. Alright, so let's add another variable, and we're just going to call it cur columns. And then over here, let's just assign it the array, and it's 7 5s to begin with. And so we're going to update R, so that is going to be equal to cur columns of C. So it'll get the height, it'll get the row for that specific column. And if R is less than 0, that means this column is filled. We're going to return. And so because we updated R, tile is no longer equal to this. It's going to be document.getElement by ID r.toString plus the dash plus c.toString. So after we place that piece, we should update R. We'll subtract it by 1 so that it moves up 1 row. And let's update our array to the new row. So this is updating the row height for the column. And we update the array. Alright, so if I refresh and I click on this column, you can see it appears on the bottom, and I can stack them like so. Now we just need to check to see if there is a Connect 4. So we're going to do check winner, and this function will be called every time a piece is set on the board. So let's create the function here. So first we're going to check horizontally. So we're going to start on this first row, and we're going to check 4 at a time. So if this one is equal to this one, and this one is equal to this one, and this one is equal to this one, that means all 4 are equal, then we have a Connect 4. So we're going to start by checking 4 here, and then we're going to check the next 4, and then the next 4, and then the next 4. So this style of checking is what we call sliding window in computer science. And if we don't find any connect fours here, we just bump the row up and then do the check here, and so on. Alright, so let's check horizontally. So let r equals 0, r less than rows, r plus plus, and for let c equals 0, c less than columns minus 3. And the reason we do minus 3 is so that we can check 3 ahead of us without going out of bounds. We're going to check to see if that tile has a piece. So if board RC is not equal to the white space, we're going to check 4 in a row, or 4 columns. So board of RC is equal to board of RC plus 1, and board of RC plus 1 is equal to board of RC plus 2, and board of RC plus 2 is equal to board of RC plus 3. Then we're going to call a set winner function, and we're going to pass in the row and column and return. So we don't have to check vertically and diagonally. So as soon as we found the connect 4, it would be pointless to check the others. That's why we have our early return. So let's write our set winner function. And we're going to get the winner div. And so if board RC, the winner, is equal to player red, we're going to do winner.innerText equal red wins. Else, we'll do winner.innerText yellow wins. And then game over, we set that to true. Alright, so we refresh and play. Let's see. You can see red wins. We got it horizontally. Alright, so now let's code the logic for checking vertically. So vertically is similar to horizontally, except you're checking this way. So instead of stopping the columns at 3, you're stopping the rows at 2. So you're not including the last 3. And you just check like this. Okay, so you're sliding the window down the rows. Alright, let's implement it vertically. For let c equals 0, c less than columns, c plus plus. So it's kind of similar to this one, except we flipped r and c. So for let r equals 0, r less than rows minus 3, r plus plus. If board of RC is not white space, then if board of RC is equal to board of R plus 1 C, and board of R plus 1 C is equal to board of R plus 2 C, and board of R plus 2 C is equal to board of R plus 3 C, then we're going to call set winner as well and return. Okay, let's refresh and check. So if I do this, you can see red wins. So now we have vertical and horizontal. Now we just need to figure out the diagonal. So checking for a winner for diagonal is a bit tricky. And so there are some things we can make an observation of. So diagonal goes this way and anti-diagonal goes this way. So I think because anti-diagonal would start here at 0, 0, let's check that one first. So I think it's easier to explain. So if you notice, we don't have to check these, right? Because 1, 2, and 3, they will never add up to 4 in a row. So we can stop checking here when R is 2. And the same applies for columns. So these we can eliminate. So now the idea here is we start on this row and we check 4 at once. So we go down like a staircase. So that's row plus 1 and column plus 1. And then row plus 2, column plus 2. Row plus 3, column plus 3. And then we go down this row. So through those columns, we check 4 at a time. And if we don't find connect 4, we check the next row over here. So it's like this. And if we don't find it there, we check the last row, 2. And as you can see, this would cover up all the surface where there's a possible connect 4 anti-diagonally. So we basically do this for the first loop. And then we check this. And then finally, we check this. So we cover this entire area. All right, so anti-diagonally for let r is equal to 0, r less than rows minus 3, r plus plus. And for let c equals 0, c less than columns minus 3, c plus plus. We're going to check to see if the board has a piece, so it's not a white space. And then we make our comparison. So r c is equal to board r plus 1, c plus 1, and r plus 1. C plus 1 is equal to board of r plus 2, c plus 2, and board of r plus 2, c plus 2 is equal to board of r plus 3, c plus 3. We're going to call set winner and return. All right, so if I refresh and I try to get the anti-diagonal, so let's do this. You can see red wins. Okay. So finally, we need to check for a diagonal. So diagonally is similar, except we're going in the opposite direction, but we can get rid of these. So we start at 3 and we check up to see if there's connect 4. So basically the first iteration would cover this range, and then the second iteration would check this region, and then the last one would check this region. Okay, so it's kind of in the opposite direction of anti-diagonally. Alright, so let's implement that. So diagonally. So for let r equals 3, r less than rows, r plus plus. For let c equals 0, c less than columns, minus 3, c plus plus. And we're going to check if board is not equal to a white space, if board RC is equal to board R minus 1, C plus 1, and board of R minus 1, C plus 1, is equal to board of R minus 2, C plus 2, and board of R minus 2, C plus 2, is equal to board of R minus 3, C plus 3, then we set the winner. And we can just place a return here. Alright, so let's go check it out. If I refresh, we're doing diagonally, so it goes up this way. So let's see. Oh no, damn it. Alright, let me refresh. Okay, over here. Let's place it here. There you go, red wins diagonally. Alright, so let's recap. We have horizontal, okay, vertical, anti-diagonal, so it goes bottom to top left. So let's do this. Okay, red wins, and let's do it diagonally. Let's let yellow win this time. So here, and there you go, yellow wins diagonally. Okay, so that's it for our Connect 4 game. If you found this tutorial helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions, please let me know down below in the comments. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'll see you later. Bye bye.